How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, I thought about today possibly not doing a video. But as the day went along and I was feeling what I was feeling and thinking about some of the things that I've been talking about on multiple videos, that I said I needed to point out some things. And I think I'm good, I know I'm good of capturing certain feelings and emotions and pinpointing it. So I didn't want time to lapse too much because we are feeling. And I indicated, because I talk often about the royal family being empathic, but a lot of us don't know it because we've been affected so greatly by this system and this continuous war and the tyranny that we are under. A lot of us are in a state of survival. And I know it is powerful to show images. That's why I rarely show my face, because the way I do these videos is the way I envision. The way I do these videos, I do all my videos strictly on emotions. And when I found this meme here, I said I'm going to start here because we're not going to lose sight and keep it simplistic. It was murder. These two, the system failed them. You know, they was minding their business, but they were selected for a reason. And so I'm going to take y'all on a journey. I'm going to point out a couple of things, and some things are quite obvious and some things are not. And I know the royal family, you are great at also doing what I do. We all, how I look at it, like, stay in your rim, in those gifts that our Father continue to bless us with. Use that. You know, I often say pray, meditate, and listen to the universe. So I was not surprised of the outcome when the DA got up to do his little dog and pony show. I had said last night that I think they're going to do a so-called, please pay attention to my language, a so-called 50-50 split. And the scales of justice rarely balance out in our favor. And so let's get over here. So this is the pig that was arrested today, and they playing with us, because I can tell you for a fact they hide mug shots, but they want this one out, and they're trying to satisfy the masses, but they still are they're orchestrating behind the scenes. Now he's out, but they think just putting that out, that will pacify the royal family. You know, I thought about something that Breonna Taylor's mother has said when they did the other dog and pony show about the 12 million of our tax dollars that she was awarded. She was saying, did I do the right thing? She's questioning herself, you know. And we got enough sense to know that when they handed down our tax dollars, what was going to follow next. It was quite obvious. And so I'm here to also, again, invoke and point out feelings. So there is a component within, knowing what we knowing, a inkling of they possibly doing the right thing. A inkling. You know, we've been browbeated so much, we still have that within us. And the reason why I'm speaking in the way that I'm speaking, I'm basing it on how I feel, how I process stuff, and I would be lying to the royal family saying that those things don't resonate within me, where it's obvious. You know, we can even see footage, and it's clear as day, and they still walk. So I have these inklings, but I made a promise to the royal family after the Amber Geiger trial. I said, we know these things will continue to happen, and that I will not allow myself, to the best of my ability, to get emotionally. I don't want to get all my feelings wrapped up into these cases, because it is painful. I feel pain. It is painful. And so I was indicating to y'all when I did my premiere last night that I didn't like the way Lisa Cabrera felt when I talked to her behind the scenes. That one, our queen is strong. She is strong, but she was pissed. And I was picking up on those vibes, and I also was picking up the energy that I felt within myself when it comes to the royal family. I could not deny what I felt. And so I'm going to get back to that, and I have a few videos to show the royal family, and I also have something that I'm going to read. So we're going to listen to this first video, and Cheryl Dorsey, the way she spoke was spot on.
Retired Los Angeles Police Department Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Sergeant Dorsey, thanks for joining us. When you look at the clashes that we've seen between police and protesters, is there a way for police to handle what seemed, or at least Shimon is describing, a almost entirely peaceful protest until the police came in and blocked it, without making it even more tense? In other words, is it normal just to stop protesters from walking, or not?
Well, listen, certainly there's a way for officers to handle protesters without being confrontational. Police officers are taught to use only that force necessary to overcome resistance and or gain compliance. And so understand that there's a segment of police officers out there who live for protests. They want to engage. They want to get involved in what, I've heard referred to on LAPD as stick time, because there's no use of force report that you have to create once you engage a protester in that way. And so there are those who live for that on both sides, right? There are antagonists on both sides.
What was your response to what we heard from the Attorney General of Kentucky today and the grand jury in terms of the Breonna Taylor case?
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm a realist, and so I deciphered all of his doublespeak and code talk, and we know that this is really a non-indictment. It has nothing to do with Breonna Taylor. This was about Officer Brett Hankinson firing rounds into the next-door neighbor's apartment. It had nothing to do with the murder of Breonna Taylor. Those officers, according to the Attorney General, were justified in that use of force. Now, I don't know how 16 shots fired by one is justified use of force when officers are taught to fire 2 shots in rapid succession and then reassess the threat. But nonetheless, that was his story, and he's sticking to it. And I found it offensive that he would call out celebrities and alleged influencers, because he too says he's a black man, and somehow celebrities can't speak for Kentuckians, but as a black man, he can speak for us. And so I understand he's skin folk, not kinfolk. He doesn't speak for me.
How do you begin to repair relations between communities and their police force when there is clearly so much anger and so much distrust?
Well, you have to first be honest, and I haven't heard any of that. Even with this $12 million settlement in the case of Breonna Taylor, there are all these faux reforms, things that were only promises, not anything that really they have to do. The city council must approve much of this. And then let's not forget that there's no admission of wrongdoing. And so, listen, if he didn't do anything wrong, I don't even know why Hankerson was fired in the first place. They came up with this no-knock warrant. You need a supervisor to sign off on it. That should have already been in existence. And so everything that they pretend to put forward really doesn't affect patrol officers, me, when I'm in uniform day to day in my patrol car. It won't stop. And we know that because we saw Derek Chauvin sit and have us watch him for 8 minutes and 46 seconds on the neck of George Floyd and dared us to do anything about it.
Do you think the other two officers should have been charged?
Well, absolutely. They were there, and one of them was a sergeant, and so I hold that sergeant to a higher standard. But we've got the attorney general saying that it was justified. Now, they're giving their truth. I don't know that it's the truth. They're saying that Breonna, her boyfriend, fired the first shot. I don't know that that's true. We know that they'll lie. They have. They said that they rendered aid. They said that there were no cameras. They said that they announced. And there's been evidence contrary to all of that. And so now we're stuck with their version of events. And that's what happens when the police kill us. There's only one version to tell, and that's the one they put forth. I'm not buying it.
The Attorney General of Kentucky is starting up this task force to review the process for securing and executing search warrants in Kentucky. So that appears some sort of tacit acknowledgement that something went wrong, in addition to the $12 million payment to the family of Breonna Taylor and the firing of Officer Hankinson. But based on the charges, no one is actually being held responsible for her death.
Absolutely. I mean, Hankerson is being indicted because he fired rounds with wanton disregard into a neighbor's apartment. It has nothing to do, no mention of Breonna Taylor. And so he gets no brownie points for starting a task force where they're going to look at and review things that should have already been in place. And then when they violate their own policies and procedures, they'll tell us, that's not what you saw. That's not what we did. Carry on.
The governor of Kentucky wants the attorney general to make all of the evidence in the case public. Governor Andy Beshear, who's a Democrat, says the public deserves to know the facts. The attorney general is a Republican. Do you think that would be enough to calm those who are angry over the lack of charges for Breonna Taylor's death, releasing the evidence?
I mean, listen, release the evidence if you want to or not. What families want, what everyone seems to be most upset about, is a failure to hold police officers accountable when they do things that are contradictory to training and or law. So make it available or not, but hold the officers accountable. And we know that that won't be happening in this case because we've already heard from the AG that in his mind, 16 shots through a closed door or an open door if they just entered is somehow justified. It's offensive.
Cheryl Dorsey, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
All right, my royal family. That was quite powerful. The things that Dorsey had said, and I had also had said that, with these games that they play when it comes to trying to pacify us, and showing subliminals. These are all games that they playing because they want that to stay in our mind. Like, yeah, one is locked up. No. He at home. Let's not lose sight of that at all. And let me see here. Because before I play this next video, I wanted to... Okay. I'll get back to that, my royal family. We know who this is. So let's get into this next video.
Judge in Louisville, Kentucky, announcing the grand jury's decision regarding the Breonna Taylor case, a woman shot to death in her own home during a police raid. It appears only one of the 6 officers who was involved in that operation has been charged. Let's go to Gabe Gutierrez right now in Louisville. Gabe, walk us through what just happened.
That's it? Hey there, Lester. Well, we're just starting to get reaction here. We're at Jefferson Square Park in downtown Louisville, and the decision is starting to trickle in. But I want to point out what just happened. There were 3 officers here that were under investigation as part of these proceedings. One you just heard from right there, Detective Brent Hankinson. He is significant because he is the only one of those 3 officers that had previously been fired. And in his termination letter, the police chief wrote that he had wantonly and blindly fired into one of the apartments. So he was appealing his termination, but it appears that the grand jury, the only officer that the grand jury has returned an indictment on, has been Brent Hankinson for the lesser charge of wanton endangerment. Prosecutors had said that he had fired into not just Breonna Taylor's apartment, but another apartment as well. And according to the police chief in his termination letter, that did not follow the use of force policy in the Louisville Police Department. The other 2 officers that were part of this investigation, Sergeant John Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove, they remain employed by the department. They are still on paid administrative leave. Lester, what's significant here is that we did not hear any charges against those 2 officers. As part of all this and part of a broader context here, the Breonna Taylor case has really set this community on edge for more than 6 months. There have been more than 100 days of protests where many of the protesters have been asking for murder charges in this case. You discussed the details of this. This was a botched raid back in March of this year, and this case got national and even international attention, especially following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Her name, Breonna Taylor's name, has become a rallying cry for social justice protests across the country. It's important to note that Breonna Taylor's family was asking for second-degree manslaughter charges against these officers. They were not going so far as to go to ask for murder charges here, because even the family realized that, in their words, it would be a long shot to get a murder charge in this case because of Kentucky's self-defense laws, which would allow potentially an officer to fire back. The police have insisted from the beginning here, and the police union has reiterated this, that they feel the shooting was justified because Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, had fired upon the officers first, and that the officers, according to the police union, only returned fire once they were fired upon. But again, the significance here, Lester, only 1 officer has been charged by the grand jury, a charge of wanton endangerment that is less than what the family had been asking for. 2 other officers, it appears here, will not be charged, and we're now awaiting comment from the Kentucky Attorney General in the next few minutes. Lester?
Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is here. Danny, walk us through this process now and these charges. 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment. Looking at the range of potential charges, where does this fit in?
On the low end, wanton endangerment is a Class D felony, and it involves not an intentional act, but something manifesting an extreme indifference to human life, something incredibly dangerous and arguably knowingly dangerous. But it is a Class D felony in Kentucky, which I understand only calls for 1 to 5 years imprisonment, and then potentially the opportunity for what we call pretrial diversion. And, across the country, pretrial diversion is basically your one free bite of the apple. If you don't have any significant prior record, then you can get a diversionary program that could keep you out of prison. You see it a lot in DUI cases and other lower level type misdemeanors and felonies. So in the grand spectrum of potential charges in this case, this is arguably on the lower end. It is a felony, but it is a Class D felony, and looking at a maximum of 5 years for each count.
Given the fact the grand jury took a pass on the other 2 officers, what does that tell you about any potential case that might have come against them? Was that going to be a more difficult mountain to climb?
This was always a difficult case, but Officer Hankinson appeared to be the easiest target for the grand jury because there were reports already that he had fired, and I'm quoting wildly, into the apartment. But in this case, there was always going to be a challenge due to what's called castle doctrine, the idea that as long as somebody is lawfully standing where they stand, they can use force to defend themselves. It gets very tricky with police, and this is why so few grand juries end up indicting police officers who shoot unarmed civilians, because police are the one segment of our society that is authorized to go on the offensive.
All right.
The country has been gripped this week from coast to coast by
Let's take that down. So let's get back over here before I get into this. So we know that the enemy is going to work very, very hard in getting him off. I predict he'll just be slapped with a fine and a reprimand and no jail time at all. That's it. That's it, and that's all. But this game that they play, like I said, a so-called, pay attention to my language, 50-50 split, because they know that we are ultimately pissed. And this does not balance, again, the scales of justice. So now, let's get into, well, I keep popping over here. Let's get into this pig here. Now, last night, on both of my channels, I put up premieres. And this murderer sends out a email to his fellow murderers, possible, potential. He was all up in his feelings. He sent out over 1,000 emails, and I pay attention to stuff, and I was focusing on, okay, you were doing this at 2:00 in the morning. So I know that he was feeling things, and he was restless, and he was concerned. But the part that I'm processing is that the way he orchestrated that email, you would have thought he was already locked up, and, you know, he's screaming and hollering about, you know, like when they put these capital letters, that's screaming, getting very, very loud about, you know, basically he's a victim. He's a victim in how he's been victimized by the system. Won't take responsibility for any of their actions, but that's part of their nature. We should not be shocked at all. See, remember this, my royal family. When we are having these inkling of feelings that, okay, we see it for what it is the justice system going to see it? Are they going to do the right thing? It ain't in them. It ain't in them. And that points out to me what is in you, the decency in you. Because, you know, people will vocalize and say, well, why they didn't do A, B, C, and D? You know, how you're assessing this situation. No, you're speaking of yourself. See, the ultimate goal of this video is to point out, to not dismiss your empathic abilities. That this is the message behind here. And so I have to, right now, because I don't want a lot of time to lapse, that what are you feeling right now is real, true, and valid. And no one, you don't let no one tell you how you're supposed to feel. Honor what you feel. That is our Father speaking directly to us. And once you get to that point, and I'm not saying any of us ever get 100%, we're human, that it lessens, I'm telling you how I feel, it lessens wasting your time within yourself, because that's exhausting. This is exhausting. This is extremely exhausting because of the accumulation. We know what they're going to do before they do it. But still, we have these inklings within us. And you take this selfish murderer, and he all up in his feelings. So, last night when I was doing my second premiere on my backup channel, I often, because I have many windows up, I started reading comments on my main channel. And I'm going to read something to y'all that's deep because not everybody knew about it. So when I was reading it and why I'm doing my second premiere, I was in there letting folks know, you need to go read this while you listening to this premiere. That's how bad I wanted everybody to know. So what happened was last night, one of my subs was over on Facebook, and this pig's wife, she had something to say, and she all up in her feelings. So since not everybody caught it, I am duty bound, and I must present this to the royal family. So keep in mind, this is his wife. I'm going to start out here. Enough is enough. They have rights too. Time to stop being quiet. I have spent 193 days staying quiet about the Breonna Taylor case. First, let me say, as a mother, I empathize with the pain her mother feels for losing a child. Her death is tragic, and that is something a mother should never have to go through. My husband was not scheduled to work on the night of March 13th, but volunteered, keep that in mind, to assist his fellow officers in time of need, as he often do. I will save all the other details of that night for the Attorney General's office to announce his decision. My husband was shot in the leg. It cut his femur artery. If someone had not had a tourniquet, he would have bled out. This wasn't just a scrape that he encountered. He was in surgery for 5 hours to repair and replace the femur artery. He also received blood transfusions while in surgery due to the large amount of blood loss. This was not a simple non-life-threatening injury that some are making it out to be. He's still living. It has been 114 days since we received a phone call at 11 at night asking us to pack up our belongings as quickly as possible and leave our home due to where am I at? Corroborated threats received and vetted by the FBI. Now let's not lose sight how her husband view the FBI. They are not police, but they taking care of them. That there were active hits on our family. We have been in hiding ever since. Try explaining that to your young child without terrorizing him. She trying to play on words like they've been so victimized. All this shit happened, bitch, based on your husband's actions. He wanted to be a part of the actions, because I had said to the royal family, what was the purpose of these demons messing with her? And they had a crew across town arresting her boyfriend. And I talked about that. I said all that was to just have some fun and just to damage her. And they was just going to process her through the jail and let her out. That's it. And invoke fear. And we deal with this daily, because even as I speak, and I often say every millisecond, someone is doing something to the royal family. Since all of this happened, he has experienced night terrors and so much anxiety that he has become psychologically sick. Let's freeze right there. That's why I had some urgency, and it confirmed. And it's some other, let me slow down. Let me point out something. They got a call at 11 at night. 11. Chaos, in the word. 11 means chaos, disorder, and judgment. Keep that in your frontal lobe. Okay. So she's talking about what he's going through. Night terrors, anxiety, psychologically sick. And I have been saying for the longest, my royal family, be very clear how you speaking to the universe and speaking to our Father. And I have been saying for the longest, Esau get no rest, get no peace, get no sleep, or any of that. Now, because of what he is experienced, what he brought on himself, many of us have been praying and speaking very clear into the universe what we want to happen to the enemy. I keep pointing out to y'all, my royal family, since we didn't came up out of our captivity, our Father, hear his babies. Hear his babies. So this ain't no smooth selling for him at all. At all. So you can't get around. You can't get around our Father. You know, many of us have children. And when somebody do something to our children, we coming for you. And we're going to be very unforgiving about coming for you. So, given our history and what the enemy continue to do as I speak to us, our Father not is coming for you. He's present in your life. We're seeing instant karma. So as we continue on, our adult children have been traumatized in displaced as well. The guilt of moving your in-laws. She should have said moving in with her. Okay, moving in with the in-laws, where are in their 70s, out of their house for their safety is overwhelming. Our lives will never be the same, and all because my husband was shot first while doing his job. All right, he volunteered. He wasn't even on the clock at that time. Your husband and his demon partners, because many been saying, why was they over there? See, when the DA was talking that bullshit, he didn't entertain that. You know, what was the purpose of going over there? Then you ransack a whole place and you don't find anything. You even got some of our own. Some nut was on my channel that do videos that look like you and I, multiple videos about Breonna Taylor, saying basically she was a part of the syndicate. Remember I was saying early, they want to make her a drug kingpin or queen pin, and they keep going to her ex-boyfriend to implicate her because they don't have nothing. Let's not lose sight of that police report that Lisa Cabrera showed us. It was nothing there. So they dicking around how they gonna do shit. And I'll get deeper into this because let me finish. As we have been waiting for the Attorney General's announcement, my fear as a wife have been unbearable. I had to sit down and have a game plan as to what I would tell my son if his father was arrested because he was simply defending his life and doing a job he was trained to do. Later last night, my husband wrote a private letter to his brothers and sisters in blue because he knew they were worn down and exhausted from the months. You see how they get down? You see how they get down? This is what we feeling. For what your man at home. He ain't locked up. I don't give a damn if he got shot. Our queen is in the ground. Anyhow, let me continue. Let me see. Months of badgering protesters and rioting. He wanted to help give them strength and encouragement for the days ahead. That is one thing about my husband. He always put others ahead of himself, and his heart is always in the right place. If you look at his police record, it is impeccable. He has cared about the city and the love this city since he was a kid. He had always wanted to be a police officer so he could help people who could not protect themselves. If you read his full email that I will post below, you would see that there was nothing in it that was mentioned as ill or will be further supported in love for the officers. Let's talk about the statement referring to thugs. Now, we know when they say thugs, they really saying nigga. Thug, by definition, is someone that is a violent, lawless criminal, causing property damage, looting, setting buildings on fire, assaulting people and police. The color of a person does not define a thug. Behavior does. Some of the social justice groups who protest have said over and over again that they do not condone violence, and these groups are not considered thugs. My husband was referring to the radical groups that have taken it upon themselves to be violent, to destroy others' properties and businesses. To get a point across is not getting your point across. It is thuggery. These criminal acts did nothing to promote unity within our communities. I stand by everything in my husband's email. We have been silent for way too long. Everyone keeps screaming about the right to have freedom of speech. So that is exactly what I'm doing. There are no double standards here. If you can say your piece, so can I, and so can my husband, who have not been able to defend himself once. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck about you and your murderous ass husband? Who gives a fuck about your feelings, your children's feelings, or anything? See, you saying all of that confirms everything we've been saying. And you all up in your feelings. He ain't going to jail. They ain't going to do nothing to him. But one thing that I can say, you will not ever get any peace. Henceforth, all of y'all, your children too, things ain't going to be ever easy. You will have eternal damnation in hell. As we continue on, my royal family. Now, let's get into this sorry ass, piece of shit ass definition of a true ass nigga. Black Attorney General chokes up during Taylor announcement.
Understand that as a black man, how painful this is. And which is why it was so incredibly important for make sure that we did everything we possibly could to uncover every fact. Representatives of the Attorney General's office have taken a lot of criticism and scrutiny, but that scrutiny in many ways was misplaced, because there was not a day that people in this office didn't go to sleep thinking about this case. The criminal law is not meant to respond to every sorrow and grief, and that is true here. But my heart breaks for the loss of Miss Taylor, and I've said that repeatedly. My mother, if something was to happen to me, would find it very hard. And I've seen that pain on Miss Palmer's face. I've seen that pain in the community.
Let me go back here a little taste with that old fake ass shit. I heard him say that shit before. I'm glad that Trump's picture is there, because this is one of they boys, okay? Don't lose sight. You know, either he married or engaged to Mitch McConnell's granddaughter. And now he wants to speak on he's a black man and he holding back tears for what? See, what is also going on, my royal family, these people are essentially marking themselves, the mark of. And you know what I mean. All right? They're exposing themselves. And they going life and limb at all costs to try to save all of them in this war. And that's not a good thing to do in war, because You have to show the enemy that you are willing to sacrifice your own. But see, the enemy don't get down like that. You know, even when they then brought on undue drama. It's like, damn, they didn't have to do that. See, they don't want to talk about that. See, if I was in there and one of them reporters asking him a question, that's the first thing I would come at his throat with. What was the purpose of them pigs being over there at our queen's house? What was the purpose of the judge signing all them 5 warrants? They lied. They lied on the postman and everything. And they immediately said, and they came out the gate with theirs, trying to imply that dope was being mailed to her house, and they could confirm everything in her ex-boyfriend's name. It was something that he ordered from a company, clothes. So you don't want to deal with that. So they don't punish him for fabricating and just coming up with some shit. They broke the law. All of them need to be locked up. And then you play these bullshit ass games with us, and you show this mug shot like he gonna be locked up for life, and trust and believe the DA is gonna do everything in his power to get him out. And when I listened to that press conference, the one thing that he did was kept talking about the grand jury. He gonna put everything on the grand jury. I presented it, and I didn't question it, and all of that kind of stuff. You orchestrated it like that, bitch. I said the other day, they don't need the grand jury. He could have took this on his own, but he gonna continue to stay on cold because we know who he submits to in everything. So again, as I speak into the universe and directly to our Father, again, even if you think about doing anything negative to any of us in the royal family, our Father is going to be quite unforgiving. This will affect you eternally. I been know what I was talking about on that, and I'm not trying to talk in an arrogant fashion. That I know that many of them get no peace at all. It's like Lisa Cabrera was talking about with the Laquan McDonald case and that pig that pumped 16 bullets in our royal son's body. She was saying when he get out of jail, his wife will not get back the same husband that she married. He is a shell of himself. But they bring this on to themselves. And then woe is me, and all of a sudden they being victimized. But we just minding our business. See, they know how to escalate things and orchestrate things and all of that. This was for some jollies and fun, just to damage someone, because they was just elated that they got her boyfriend, like he the biggest drug kingpin in the world. We don't own no damn ships that's shipping all of this shit over here. Nickel and dime bags of dope makes you a drug kingpin. And then you look at all the evidence and it look bad, and then you want to, the very person that's already locked up, you want them to implicate her. And I say, okay, what if that was true? One does not have to do with the other. But these are the things that they rely on. So back here at square one, point blank, it was murder. That is it, and that is all. Keep it very simplistic. But see, the enemy tries to confuse us, but you can't confuse us. We know what's going down. We're seeing it in real time. The world is watching you, and you still will atone for your greasy, nasty, dusty ass ways. Again and again, you get absolutely no peace. Everything you touch, everything you think about will not work in your favor. And see, I'm a type of person, I don't want to see them dead. Dying is easy. Living is hard. Hard. And what naturally happens, my royal family, when people do these negative things, over time, people gradually get away from them. They don't want to be in that omen. This DA, he got his eyes on the prize. He think one day he could possibly be president. He ain't going to elevate. He ain't going to elevate at all. And trust and believe, because he don't want to believe it. He do something that they don't approve of, they'll lock his black ass up too. He's just a figurehead. They don't trust him. So all these things that I'm saying to the royal family, we already know. That's why I speak to y'all in a very respectful fashion. I don't talk down to the royal family. I'm speaking to some very sacred people. And I take that serious. Very, very serious. Very serious. That over time on this channel, the way that I'm conducting myself, I'm careful with my language, believe it or not, when I am talking directly to you. Embrace your royalty. Honor the things that you feel within that our Father has blessed us with. Don't speak in the past tense when these demons do what they do to us. Speak in the now. Because you'll say, well, very soon, blah, blah, blah gonna happen. Well, very soon, we don't know what that time frame is. We have to speak in the presence. That's all I'm saying, my royal family. So, we ain't surprised. The same old, same old. We will continue to see more of this until their kingdom completely fall. And they are stripped of everything. And this is what's going on. We're watching it fall. You know, we will continue to stay separate, like Lisa say. Coronavirus is on them streets. All right? And more plagues to come. So, my royal family, I'm going to leave it right there. Render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.